Genius. Good evening. My name is Damien, the tall, friendly atheist dad, from the Tall, Friendly Atheist Dad podcast. I'm not going to do a goofy voice as I've done the last few episodes of an atheist reads. This particular topic that I'm doing today is actually fairly serious in tone. And the last few books. So I went on a bit of a book downloading spree today. Google Books actually has quite a number of free ebooks available, especially because the copyright expires 70 years after the death of the author, and from there you can either go to Google Books or the Gutenberg Project. I think Z Library as well. There's actually you can just old books to your heart's content. It's great. So yeah, so this book is called Bible Defense of Slavery. So as someone who frequently discusses the topic of morality on the internet and on the podcast, and I've done a few shows discussing comparative religious ethics and morality. The idea of slavery does also the issue of slavery does come up, and the number one example that is discussed is the antebellum South of the southern states of America. So, in order to be fair, on both sides, so I've got this book, Bible Defense of Slavery by Reverend Josiah Priest. And then, on the other hand, I've also downloaded, what is it called? Sorry, I have to, I keep forgetting these names, but give me a second. So I've actually got my, Christian slaveholders are disobedient to Christ. So later in the week, maybe tomorrow, maybe around this time tomorrow, I'll start reading that book. And I'll chop and change between the two. Because I am kind of interested in both sides of the argument and how they made their points and responded to counterpoints as well. So it's so now I am of the opinion that the Bible does sanction slavery. I am told by some of my Christian friends that the Christians were abolitionists, so therefore slavery isn't compatible with Christianity. And look, that may be correct, though the evidence to support that position I don't think is that strong. So anyway, so I'm going to open up. Bible Defense of Slavery, written by Reverend Josiah Priest. And this was published back in 1851. So it's, yes, certainly old, and the scanning... So what it looks like is that this book was scanned into an archive or a repository, and yeah, the pages do look like they've been from the 1850s. So, are you comfortable there? Yeah. Can I give you a big hug before I start reading? Yes. So I've got the warm reading sun next to me. It's about 8:30 at night. Yeah, we've had a bit of a big day. So anyway, and also I just enjoy history. I enjoy understanding what the people who came before us, what they thought, what they why they believed what they did, all that kind of stuff. So, well, that wasn't what I wanted. Okay, lock that. My big boy. So, anyway, let me just lift that. So, hello to any of you who are watching on the live stream, and hello to you, anyone who's watching this after after the recording. So I'm just going to move my pop filter. Sorry for any noise. Okay, cool. So that's that there. Just testing out a new setup, and hopefully it will work out well. Okay, that goes in roughly like that. I'm just going to turn my volume up. Sorry for the noise. Should have tested this out beforehand, but anyway, that's life when you're a one-man band and doing everything on the smell of an oily rag. So anyway, okay, so this book is from 1851. So some of the words are a little bit arcane and a little bit antiquated, and obviously some of the concepts will be antiquated. But I think it's worth reading, so we get that historical perspective, so we can better understand. So this is the front page. So 3, 2, 1. Bible Defense of Slavery by Reverend Josiah Priest, AM, to which is added a faithful exposition of that system of pseudo-philanthropy or fanaticism yclept modern abolitionism, which threatens to dissolve the Union, and proposing a plan of national colonization adequate to the removal of the entire free black population of the United States, and all that may hereafter become free, in a manner harmonizing with the well-being of both races, embellished with appropriate engravings, published by W.S. Brown, Glasgow, Kentucky, 1851. So I'll skip past the publisher's preface because I'm not really worried about that at the moment. I want to get into the actual author's preface. Which is here. So 3, 2, 1. Preface. Then a knowledge of the races and nations of men who have peopled the globe since it was created. There can be no subject more interesting. With a view to an elucidation of this description, we present the work before us, in which an attempt is made to give, in some measure, a history of the origin, character, and fortunes of the Negro portion of mankind. In pursuit of this object, we hope there needs no apology, because we have found it necessary to resort to the Holy Scriptures for much important information which relates to our design, as it is well known that those parts of that book which were written by Moses are the eldest writings of the human race now extant, and relate to the very first operations of the human race after the flood. As corroboratory of the developments of that miraculous book, we have also resorted to ancient and modern history, to travels, narratives, etc., which go to aid us in the research. As to the origin of the Negro man, we have, in our cogitations, recollected several curious opinions relative to the subject, which we have thought proper to present, on account of their wild and extravagant character, as follows. Some have queried whether the mother of the first Negro man might not have been frightened by some hideous black monster of the antediluvian woods, as in the first ages of the world there were many terrible beasts of the wilderness roaming around, whose races are now extinct. There is one creature which existed then, and is not yet extinct, whose appearance, in its native haunts, is very frightful to behold, and this is the black orangutan, of which animal there are individuals known to have attained the enormous height of 7 feet, covered entirely with shining black hair. The strange effects of fright on the offspring of mothers is a well-known phenomenon in the physiological history of man. Thus, as some have supposed, the Negro race was produced, forming an entire new class of human beings, and distinguished from the nature, colour, and character of the parents by a fright of the mother. Others seem to believe that, in the very first ages of the planet, and long before the creation of Adam, there existed a race of animals having a resemblance to man, as has the orangutan, but of gigantic stature, as well as power, dwelling in communion with other beasts and monsters of that time. From this family of animals, it has been supposed that the Negro race was derived and brought forward by the continual mutations of nature, passing from one change to another in pursuit of maturity, with all things else arriving at last to their highest point, as exhibited in the presence of the black or Negro nations. It has also been believed that, at a very early period of time, some community of men have been so situated in relation to climate, food, and other circumstances, as to have been changed from their original stamp of complexion and character to that of perfect blacks, thus originating the Negro family of man. Some have imagined that the origin of the race was a disease of the skin, which, being of an incurable nature, formed at length a radical character, and thus produced this people. Many have believed that there was a first as many fathers and mothers created as there are now different races of men, from whom have descended the red, the white, the black, the brown, and the yellow tribes of the human race, discarding the account given in the scriptures of there having been but one pair of human beings created. Sorry, I'll do that again. There you go, it's better. This is like, 2 pages in, and the train of thought that people had about other races is actually very, very, very interesting. And I think probably the closest of those to the science that we found now is this last paragraph. Many mothers and fathers created, but as there are now different races of men from whom the descended the red, white, the black, brown, and yellow. But I love this line: discarding the account given in the scripture, which discarding the account given in scripture. That's a great way to know things. But evolutionary genetics and differences in races and all that kind of stuff. But the truth of it is that race is a very superficial construct. From my understanding, there's like a less than 1% difference between two people of different races. You do get like the superficial stuff like eye color, hair color, average height, all that kind of stuff. But it's the reality is that they aren't different species. They're just men who have more melanin than you, and hold on, give me a sec. What are you doing? What are you doing? Okay, you can. Cool, just let me know, and I'll. So that's really it. I said they're not different creatures, but I would love to know who he's referring to with this 7-foot orangutan with shiny black hair. That would be 15 times interesting. That's I may have to look into that. Anyway, I'll go to the next page. Others have imagined that the mark set upon Cain by the divine power for the crime of homicide was that of jet, which not only changed the colour of his body, but extended to the blood and the whole of his physical being, thus originating the Negro race, a remnant of which they suppose by means of some craft, or rather outrode the flood, anchoring on some lofty mountain, subsisting on the floating carcasses of the drowned animals till the earth was dried again. Thus, many have mused on the subject of the origin of the Negro race. But we reject all these schemes as the baseless hallucinations of visionaries. Even the mooted and equally absurd problem that climate, or any other contingency, became the origin of that people, and affirmed that a cause of an entire different description from all these gave birth to the race, an account of which we will give in this work. Just going back to this previous paragraph here where, so just to clarify the English in that, what Josiah Priest is proposing is that some people have proposed that Cain was cursed with black skin, basically. And then the reason that those people have survived is that Cain's family basically somehow survived the global flood by hanging onto the carcasses of drowned animals until the earth was ready to inhabit again. The problem is that does go against the literal interpretation of the Bible, because the whole point of the flood was to kill everyone, and the Bible does say that the flood covered all the mountains. So it's just, and like floating on like animal carcasses for a year while the flood was. So it just makes, like, it reminds me of the part in Kent Hovind's PhD. Those episodes I haven't released yet, actually, where he suggests that the growth of coral reefs was accelerated because of all the animal carcasses in the water that were providing nutrients to the corals to make them grow really fast, which is an explanation of how we have so much coral reef in 6,000 years. Yeah. Oh boy, it's scripture. Taking scripture literally does require you to come up with some really weird ideas. Anyway, back to the book in 3, 2, 1. As to the mental character of the black nations, considered collectively, we have found them, in all ages since their appearance on the earth, of but small account when compared with the other races of men, the red and white. In publishing our opinions, as presented in this work, we have been moved thereto by the operations of conflicting principles, as held by abolitionists and anti-abolitionists throughout the entire United States, believing that light was necessary in order to learn the truth respecting the people in question, namely the Negro race. We are also anxious to ascertain the cause of this class of mankind being enslaved, in the low and degraded sense of the word. As to the history of the black portion of the human race, it has occupied the pens of more writers than one, on which account we feel that we are not alone in this attempt, and also that we have advanced some new and not uninteresting opinions with respect to the time and the occasion of the product of the first Negro man. Together with an account of the origin of this people, we have not forgotten to inquire something respecting the native mental abilities of the race, and whether created equal in that and other particulars with other men. We have also had something to say about exalting them in this country to political and social equality with the other citizens of the United States, and whether, were the whites and blacks to become amalgamated, it would be a desirable object with many other matters of interest. We have found the history of this race somewhat of a difficult character to describe, as it is far more hidden and obscure than the history of either the red or white race. Yet we believe that some progress, in this respect, is made in the work. Thus, with but few prefatory remarks, we submit our opinions, believing that which we have advanced to be indubitable, however repugnant to the conceptions of many, who fancy they see in the Negro's mind the germs of a prodigious mental power, notwithstanding all the evidence to the contrary, which has witnessed against them for thousands of years, showing that a pall of darkness and obscurity, not occasioned by the acts or the influence of the other races, has rested on the whole being of this people, induced by a higher power than that of man. As was the deep when nature first was made, and earth's foundations in the waters laid, when the darkness reigned the realm of ancient night, when God sent forth his word, and there was light. So is the race of Ham a darkling sea, which now invites the truth that light may be, o'er which, if we have sent a single ray, then we'd have gained our aim and look for day. The author. So, this book is divided into 15 sections, and I'll see if there is a... Okay, I don't think there actually was an index, like a proper index. But yeah, so we can see that the historical thought... So back in the 1850s, the historical thought was that Africans were a completely separate... Well, it's hard to argue that they were anything but human. You know, it was you can see that they're either a separate creation or they're the curse of the curse of Cain, which I think was part of the Mormon thought for some time. And yeah, it's I'm not reading this to promote racist thoughts. I'm reading this so that we know that there were people who honestly believe this, and that there are still some people who believe this today. There's a saying that sunlight is the best disinfectant, and I think I am of that opinion that if we bring these tough ideas out and have them discussed, then we can have a discussion about them, and if they're good ideas, we keep them. If they're bad ideas, we drop them. But yeah, just to get the historical thought that because there are some people who don't believe that that Christianity endorsed slavery, or that Christians didn't endorse slavery, or that how can I say, or that there was no conflict in the religion. So yeah, so this is just to air these very antiquated views out, and just see how extreme they were. You're right there, son. You're right there. I thought you were trying to go to sleep. Okay. My son is drawing on my arm. It's interesting. Anyway, so I'm going to click the fingers, and we'll go back to the book. Now we're about 23 minutes in. Let me just quickly see how long this section is. 4, 5, 6. Oh, okay. I may need to bookmark partway through because it is. So I'm going to go for another 20 minutes or so. Maybe if I stop babbling on, that would be a good idea. Okay, 3, 2, 1. Origin and history of the Negro race. First section. Complexion of the parents of the human race. Kind of earth man was made of. Power of the Hebrew language in giving names. Adam and Eve, both called Adam by the Creator. Complexion of the antediluvians. Curious chronology of the holy seed from Adam to Jacob, the immediate head of the Jewish tribes. The opinions of some that Adam was created black, refuted. Personal appearance of Adam and Eve in paradise before the fall, with many other curious matters. That we may elucidate the subjects alluded to on the title page of this work, it is of importance to ascend very high toward the beginning of time in this investigation, even up to the creation of the first human pair. By this method, and this only, do we hope to arrive at length to a knowledge of the desired objects. To ascertain the true origin of the Negro, or African race, at the very threshold of the work, is exceedingly appropriate as, without such a discovery, we shall appear to wander where no light shines, to illume the way amidst the mazes of ancient times. How often do we hear questions like the following? From whence came the Ethiopian, or black man? Who was his father? Did he spring from Adam, or some other race? Can it be that from one and the same source, the white, black, and red portions of mankind proceeded, with all the hues and shades of complexion which mark the human race? If so, is it not exceedingly mysterious that there is not now, nor never has been, the occurrence of a variety so marked and distinctive as is black, white, and red, proceeding from the same parents naturally? Surely, if nature, in the beginning, or in the first ages, produced from the same origin different races of men, as to their complexious and physical constitutions, she ought to produce the same in these later ages, in order to be consistent with herself in this particular, as she is known to be in all others. These are questions the first to arise whenever this subject is referred to by the inquisitive and the lovers of knowledge. This is actually where having an understanding of evolution and evolutionary principles comes in. So because the understanding of the world, a couple hundred years ago was limited to a 6,000 year time frame, they thought that everything happened within this very quick time frame. Therefore, it was all created, and how could one set of parents produce black, white, and red? But as we now know that humans migrated out from Africa, and it's actually the Africans who are basically the originals, and everyone else is a copy of them. 2 seconds. You're right there. You're fidgeting about a bit. Is there something I can help you with? Can you try not to eat my arm? It's a little bit hard to read and have my arm eaten at the same time. Yeah. So we know that out of Africa, so basically I think the theory is that Africa is the bowl of civilization, and then from there, so that people spread to Asia and Europe and all that kind of stuff, and so in a way, it's actually us. Well, so I shouldn't say us. It's white people who are the odd ones when we look at genetic history. And there's a couple of ways that we understand that Africa Homo sapien life originated in Africa, and have a look at the technical studies about that, and you'll see. But this is the kind of stuff that you come up with in this book when you have a very limited understanding. Anyway, back to the. But as we pass in the prosecution of the work, we hope to answer the above queries and show the reader the true origin of the Negro race, as well as that of the others, the white and red, there having been, in reality, but these three on the earth, as the yellow and the brown, with all the other shades, are but derived from an amalgamation of the three others, which were prior and radical, as we shall show in due order. On this subject, nature, or rather God in nature, has instructed us that without the intervention of divine power, there could and never would have been, but one general complexion of the people of the globe, and that one complexion would have been like the first parents, whatever that complexion was. If the first two of humankind were created white, they could never have been the parents of black and red men. If they were created red, they could never have been the parents of black and white men. If they were created black, they could never have been the parents of white and red men, as they could not naturally procreate only with their own complexion. Since the creation of man upon the earth, there never was produced from the same parents a variety of complexion, except in the case of the albino's production, which is now considered to be only the effect of disease. This particular, the producing of varieties, is a trait of the nature of beasts, but not of man, who, in this particular, are more fixed, being created in a way which has set him above the winds and the weather, as it relates to his physical being. Here it is proper to inquire, what then was the complexion of the two first of the human race, Adam and Eve, and the antediluvian world, their offspring? In relation to this extremely curious as well as interesting subject, we shall refer first to a very ancient and a very learned historian, namely Flavius Josephus, who says in his work on the Antiquities of the Jews, Book 1, Part 12, that Adam, the first man, was created red. The following are his words: God took dust from the ground and formed man, and inserted in him a spirit and a soul. This man was called Adam, which in the Hebrew tongue signifies one that is red, because he was formed of red earth, compounded together, for of that kind is virgin or true earth. The kind of earth which Josephus calls virgin or pure earth was, no doubt, of a very peculiar character and appearance. Sorry, technical difficulties. Sorry. So doing a pillow change. This is the joys of live streaming. Oh, got an email. Nice. Sorry about this. Sorry, my apologies. Did you want to grab my arm? Okay, let me just get this set up again. Okay. The kind of earth which Josephus calls virgin or pure earth was no doubt of a very peculiar character and appearance, or he would not have called it pure or virgin earth, in distinction from all the other earths of the globe, of which it is said that there are 9. How this man came by a knowledge of this circumstance, we cannot tell, except he derived it from the term Adam, or from a tradition of the patriarchs arising out of that circumstance, his creation from red earth, and handed down from the house of Noah. For this very reason, doubtless, it was written by Moses, Genesis 5:2, that God called the two parents of the human race, but by one name, which was that of Adam, in which name was comprehended as well their natures as their complexion. God did not give the first woman the name of Eve. It was Adam who did this, when he saw that she was to become the mother of all the human race. Adam was the name which God gave to the woman, as well as to the man at first, as shown above from the text of Moses. This circumstance should not be allowed to pass till it shall have made its due impression upon the mind of the reader, which is as follows: Male and female he created them, and blessed them, and called their name Adam, in the day when they were created. In accordance with this statement of Josephus, in rendering a reason why God called the first two human beings by but one name, and that name being Adam, or the red man and woman, we find that the Hebrew language establishes that the word Adam, Adamah, Adamai, and Admah all have a similar meaning. First, Adam, as above, signifies earthy man, red. Second, Adamah signifies red earth or blood. Third, Adamai signifies my man, red, earthy, human. Fourth, Admah signifies earthy, red, or bloody, all of which words are of the same class and spring from the same root, which was Adam, signifying red or copper colour. From a view of this fact, it is difficult to account for the reason of the name of the first man and woman unless they were created red instead of white or black, as it is well known that the Hebrew language is governed in its power of naming visible existences, as of animals, fowls, fishes, etc., by their appearances or natures, and frequently by both, as in the case of the name Adam, which not only represented the hue of his skin, but that also of his intellectual existence or human nature. Thus, this Jewish historian, as well as the genius of the Hebrew language, furnishes us with a clue, like the golden thread in the labyrinth of the subterranean palace of ancient Thebes, leading to the right conclusion on this subject, namely, that Adam, with all the antediluvian race, were red, or a copper-coloured people. But on this subject, there is other testimony corroborative of the above, though but incidentally afforded, and yet is of the highest possible authority. This evidence is found in the writings of Moses, in the book of Genesis, chapters 5 and 11. In this book is written, by a competent hand, a brief yet perfect history of the cosmogony of the earth, as well as a narrative of the births and deaths of the patriarchs, from the beginning of the time to which he lived, a lapse of years consisting of 2,553, and about 1,481 years before the birth of Josephus, who was a mere lad at the time of Christ's crucifixion. This incidental evidence, in relation to the belief that Adam was created red, is afforded by Moses in tracing the genealogical descent of one of the sons of Adam, namely that of Seth, from his father down to the patriarch Jacob, who is the immediate progenitor of the 12 tribes of the house of Israel. Now, as the Jews are a red, or a dark copper-coloured race, in their pure and unamalgamated condition, aids in proving that Adam was also of the same complexion, because Seth, an immediate son of Adam and Eve, was the direct progenitor of the Hebrew or Jewish people, commonly called the lineage of the Holy Seed. See Genesis as above alluded to 5 and 6, also chapters 21, 25, and 35, where the true genealogy of that race is traced out, coming down from Adam to Noah, and then from Noah to Abraham, and from thence to Jacob, the head of the 12 tribes of the Jews. To please the curious, we will give an extract from those chapters of the book of Genesis 5, 6, 21, 25, 35, respecting this genealogy, which is as follows. Seth, the son of Adam, was the father of Enos, who is the father of Canaan, who is the father of Sorry about this. Mahalaleel, who is the father of Jared, who is the father of Enoch, who is the father of Methuselah, who is the father of Lamech, who is the father of Noah, who is the father of Shem, who is the father of Arphaxad, who is the father of Salah, who is the father of Eber, who is the father of Peleg, who is the father of Reu, who is the father of Serug, who is the father of Nahor, who is the father of Terah, who is the father of Abraham, who is the father of Jacob, who is the father of Isaac, who is the father of Jacob, who is the father of the 12 tribes of Israel. Thus the genealogy of the descent of the Jews is made out, and as it is well known that the Jews in their pure and unamalgamated state are red, or copper-coloured, we prove by this fact, in connection with the foregoing evidence, that the antediluvians, with the father of the human race, were red men and women. It's interesting that he's taken a look. I like the fact that he's actually gone to Josephus to get some opinion. Josephus was a classy historian, though I think when he says that when he connects Adam to the color red, I have a feeling that's just opinion. But again, I'm reading this because it gives you that insight as to what they were thinking, like with the limited information they had. What sort of excuses and what kind of thinking processes did they come up with the information they had? And this is the 1,000 Shades of Interesting. Don't agree with it. Don't agree with this one bit. But it is interesting. But if it is necessary to add any other circumstance corroborative of the above conclusion, we may mention that the Arabs, or Ishmaelites, are red or copper-coloured, as well as the Jews, and are alike the descendants of Abraham, who is of the race of Shem, as above shown, one of the sons of Noah. In the existence of the Arabs, we have a tangible and an abiding evidence that the Jews were a people who were copper-coloured, as the Arabs are brethren of the Jews and have never mixed their blood with that of other people as much as the Jews have. The reason why they have not is the peculiar location of their country, it being situated along the eastern coast of the Red Sea in Asia Minor, and is an almost unapproachable desert of sand in the very heart of Arabia, where, from the remotest ages, they have subsisted in wandering hordes, living, many of their tribes, wholly by rapine and plunder, amalgamating but little with other nations, who have been deterred from conquering the country by the horrid desert and storms of flying sand, so that they have remained a distinct aboriginal people from the age of Abraham and Ishmael, the son of Abraham, in the very face of all the surrounding countries, the same in every age. Thus, from the foregoing facts, we believe it is made clear that the complexion of Adam, Eve, and the antediluvians was neither black nor white, but red only. I can't do the click. Anyway, there, click. This is interesting. So he's basically saying that the Arabs, okay, this is just interesting. That I think what he's trying to say is that the Arabs are basically pure blood, because what does it say? Subsisted in wandering hordes, living, many of their tribes, wholly by rapine and plunder. Amalgamating but little with other nations. Now, I'm no expert on the Arabic peoples, but I think there is some differences. I'm sure there's some differences in there. And just trying to think. I think the Romans. Obviously the Romans conquered that part of the world. If I'm not mistaken, I think the the Mongolians as well, because I think they had a fair bit of territory towards Europe as well. So yeah, this is just, again, this is interesting that these people come up with this. Anyway, back to the book. Some, however, and persons of high reputation too, have imagined that Adam was created black, and that his descendants have, in many cases and countries, been changed into other hues and complexions by the actions of the elements. But had this been the fact, Adam would not have been called Adam. Some other word or appellation would have been his name, as we shall further show by and by. In relation to this subject, should the reader desire to know why we have followed the line or genealogy of Seth, the third son of Adam, when the scripture speaks of 2 other sons, and Jewish history of at least 30 and of as many daughters, why, therefore, select this Seth in preference to all the others? The answer is, the descendants of all the other sons were lost in the flood, there remaining. Even of this lineage, the family of Seth, but one thread, and this was Noah. There was, therefore, no other genealogy to trace. Most people in Christian countries have imbibed the opinion that Adam, Eve, the antediluvians, the Jews, the old prophets, and patriarchs were all white men, most assuredly. But this is a mistake. They got one thing right, as is evident from the foregoing. Adam, therefore, in his primitive condition before he had fallen, and covered his limbs with clothing, was a glorious personage to look upon. Being of a bright ruddy red, like an image of gigantic size, formed of native copper, instinct with life and motion. Thus, when he moved in the groves of paradise, he glowed in the sun's rays like some celestial being, gathering from the down-bending of limbs of the trees the ripe but newly created fruit. Such was Eve, also his heaven-made bride, though less in stature and more delicately shaped. From her head, formed so as no Greek could sculpture the Parian marble, there fell a silken shower, the black and glossy tresses of her hair, like the glory of the heads of angels, as written by St. Paul, far below her sylph-like waist, and shrouding all her person as with a robe, in the gleamy tissues of attenuated jet, while through this, as the wind softly whispered and played therewith, was seen the bright and fulgent limbs of the first of womankind. Every motion of her agile form showed her to be the immediate work of God, while the red flush of health and immortal vigour mantled her bosom and whole person, like the deep tints of the early sun, flashing athwart the disk of a cloud, varying every moment as she changed her attitudes, and as the various passions of her sinless soul mingled and flowed through her being. But Adam was of a mightier cast, all the powers of his body and mind being more dauntless and masculine. Decision and force sat enthroned on his face, beamed in his eye, and was redolent on every limb, well fitted and formed to become the head of the newly made world. And the race of gigantic nations of the antediluvians, whose lives reached for many ages, the vast amount of nearly 1,000 years. Such was the first man and woman of the human race, but was somewhat changed by the entrance of sin, which not only affected the hearts and natures of Adam and Eve and their race, but tinged the beauty of their complexion, changing it from a bright florid red to the dark hue of a common copper, and awfully agreed with the still darker passions of their fallen souls, who, in this image, brought forth their progeny red in complexion, and beclouded in mind. Thus God ordained, and this was surely right, that the first man should not be black nor white, but of a copper hue, a gloomy red, halfway between the two, our primal head. Okay, so there ends section 1 which is the origin, character, and fortunes of the Negro race. Actually, no, sorry. Let me just go back. What was actually this section called? Because each one is a little bit different, of course, and you'd hate to get it wrong. Sorry, the origin and history of the Negro race, and yeah, it's interesting that people of the 1850s wholeheartedly believed this kind of stuff. And one thing that makes me say that is this book is 514 pages long, which is okay. Let me just go back to so in my okay. So let me just go to so the PDF is 514 pages long. How long is the actual? Okay, so that's interesting because on the page marking, the last page is 515. 500, yeah, page 515, in a chapter called Strictures on Abolitionism, which is... But yeah, so it's interesting that these... So let me... Okay, that's that there, so I'm just... Gosh, okay. Second section. Genius. Yeah, so it's just, again, so the reason I'm so amazed by this is that this is the best they could come up with from a non-scientific perspective, using scripture and a little bit of Josephus and a very cursory study of the Pan-Arabic people, to build their expert opinion on. It is it's mind-boggling. And just imagine, like, if we were living in this time, this is like, I'm so thankful that we live in this time where we know better, where we understand better, that we know that race is a superficial thing, that that we are really like, white people are really Africans who have lost their skin color. That's if you think about it like that, it's it is just anyway. So the next time I read, which will probably be in 3 or 4 days' time, anyway, we'll see how that goes. But yeah, so the next section is called the second section. Origin of the Negro race, arguments to ascertain this, causes of the So it looks like at the start of each section they actually go through like a little summary of the section, and then so origin, character, and fortunes of the Negro race. Second section will be the next part to be read. If you have any thoughts, there are numerous ways you can contact me. The best way is on Twitter at TFADpod. If you're watching this on the YouTube, obviously you can leave a comment down below on the video. Leave your thoughts there. Facebook, facebook.com/TFADpod. Leave a comment on the Facebook page, or head to www.tallfriendlyatheistdad.com. In the meantime, look after yourselves, stay safe, treat other people with respect, no matter their race, and use science and reason for your morals and ethics, not a primitive view of the Bible. But until next time, look after yourselves. Goodbye.